We met in the most unexpected way at a cat exhibition in Chicago. She was there showcasing her prized Persian cat, and I was just tagging along with a friend. But the moment I saw her, it wasn't the cat that caught my attention. It was her smile, radiant, confident, and contagious. Her name was Melissa. After a few exchanged words and some shy laughs, I asked for her number. And a year later, we were married. Our love was deep and life felt perfect. 3 years into our marriage, we were blessed with a daughter, Emily, who quickly became the center of our universe. Now 6 years old, Emily's sharp wit and bright eyes were a constant reminder of what Melissa and I had once been. But things started to change 4 years into the marriage. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, Melissa's attitude toward me shifted. I couldn't figure out why. Perhaps it was her upbringing. Her father was a stern, retired military officer, and her mother's elegance often veered into condescension. Whatever it was, I began to notice her dissatisfaction more and more. Criticism and comparisons. David, why don't you try to be more like Greg? You know, Susan's husband. He just got promoted again. She'd say during dinner, her tone light, but the underlying jab unmistakable. Or worse, when we hosted guests, everyone, if you know of any good jobs, let me know. David could use some help finding something that pays better. You know, we've got to think about Emily's future. The laughter that followed was polite but uncomfortable, and I would sit there seething, feeling smaller with every word. At first, I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe it was the financial pressure. My marketing job didn't bring in six figures, but we weren't struggling. We had a roof over our heads, food on the table, and a savings account slowly but steadily growing. I was proud of what I provided for my family, but it seemed Melissa wasn't. The final straw. The turning point came at Emily's fifth birthday party. We had invited family and friends over for a backyard celebration. Emily was beaming, surrounded by balloons and a unicorn-themed cake. Everything was perfect until Melissa decided to make a toast. Thank you all for coming, she began, holding her glass high. Emily, my sweet girl, you're the light of my life. And to my husband, David, I just hope you'll start being the man I know you can be, a responsible, strong provider, someone who understands that childhood is over. The guest fell silent. I could feel the heat rising to my face, my fists clenched under the table. But Melissa wasn't done. Honestly, she laughed lightly. Sometimes I feel like I'm raising two kids instead of one. I stood up, walked over to her, and for a moment she thought I was going to hug her. Instead, I calmly poured my Bloody Mary over her head. The red tomato juice dripped down her perfectly styled hair and onto her floral dress. The room was dead silent. David. She screamed, her face a mix of shock and fury. I wasn't done. I grabbed her wine glass and poured it over her as well. Since I'm such a disappointment, Melissa, I thought I'd give you a toast you'd never forget. Her father, Robert, a man who still carried the rigidity of his military days, lunged at me, grabbing me by the throat. What the hell is wrong with you, boy? He roared, but I wasn't going to let him intimidate me. I elbowed him in the head and he struck back, knocking me to the ground. As I lay there, laughing hysterically, the absurdity of the situation hit me. My marriage, my life, had turned into a farce. The aftermath. The party ended in chaos. Melissa screamed that I was drunk, though I hadn't had more than 2 drinks. Her friends whispered in corners, and her mother kept shaking her head in disapproval. I was escorted out by Melissa's brother, Ethan, the only person who seemed to understand. Man, he said, patting my shoulder as I stood outside, I've been waiting for someone to knock some sense into her. You might have gone too far, but I get it. She's difficult. The next day, Melissa tried to talk to me, but I cut her off. We're done, Melissa, I said firmly. You've disrespected me for years. I've had enough. You'll regret this, she spat, her eyes cold. I'll make sure you don't get a penny in the divorce, and good luck seeing Emily. She slammed the door as she left to pack her things. True to her word, Melissa made the divorce as painful as possible. She accused me of being an alcoholic and even fabricated a story about me assaulting her father. The court battles were long and grueling, but eventually we reached a settlement. The house was sold and I was granted visitation rights with Emily every Sunday. Moving on. A year after the divorce, my life began to stabilize. I started a new job in digital marketing, which paid better and gave me more flexibility to spend time with Emily. I even began dating again, though I approached relationships with caution. One evening, Ethan and I met up for a drink. He'd stayed in touch, always offering support. I'll be honest, he said, swirling his beer. I never understood what you saw in Melissa. She's my sister, yeah, but she's not exactly humble. I laughed. Love blinds you, man. I thought being kind and patient would make her happy. Turns out she just thought it made me weak. Her loss, Ethan said firmly. You're better off without her. A brighter future. These days, Emily and I have our Sunday routines, park trips, ice cream runs, and bedtime stories. She's my anchor, the one constant in all the chaos. And despite everything, she loves me unconditionally. As for Melissa, she's moved on with someone else, and I'm genuinely happy for her. Maybe she'll find what she's looking for. But as for me, I've learned to stand tall, to value myself, and to never let anyone, no matter how much I love them, treat me like I'm less than I am.